Thando, good morning and welcome to AM News.
Good morning, Maru.
A must-win between Samoa and not so long ago, actually, let's start maybe there. Not so long ago, you were here on Saturday. We were previewing Bafana against Japan, and everyone said it should be a walk in the park. What happened there?
I was here. We're previewing the Boks against Japan, and I believe we should have won. We've got the talent to win. I still believe we've got the talent to win today. But today is more than just a matter of winning a rugby game for us. It's a matter of pride. All those guys, their egos have been dented. Their reputations have been put on the line. This is what legacies are about. A coach like Heineke Meyer, who has done it all, he has won at every level in rugby. Basically, people have questioned his credentials. A guy like Jean de Villiers, he is a great servant to SA Rugby. He is also basically his name has been pulled through the mud because of this World Cup. This is where we need to save a lot more than just a game.
Now, how a mood would be like now, given all the facts you are putting on the table, the issue of pride and all of those things. The past week must have been a bit rough for the boys, I would assume.
It must have been tough. It must have been tough emotionally for the guys because for the first time, I think, in the last 4 years, they've been criticized. No one has had their backs. I'm one of those who believe that the media, have been very kind to Heineke Meyer and his team in the last 4 years. They've won nothing in the last 4 years, but you've said nothing about that. You've always believed in the bigger picture. But this one time, the entire nation is united purely for the wrong reason. Everyone is basically united in saying this team is not the right team, the coach is not the right coach. I beg to differ on many fronts on that.
Expand on that, because I was about to ask you, is this the right team? Is he the right coach to be leading the boys at this World Cup?
When he got the job, he was the best available coach. This is a guy who had won 3 Super Rugby titles. He had won a couple of Currie Cups with the Bulls. He had taken a franchise. Remember, back when he took over in his second stint at the Bulls had gone through a season whereby they had not won a Super Rugby game when US was still captain of the Bulls. He turned all of that around. This guy basically, he went to Northampton and they were successful. He was a successful coach. A lot of people are arguing that Peter de Villiers, the previous coach, should have been overlooked and he should have been given the job after Jake White. And he wasn't. It was a natural thing to do. Unfortunately, he has disappointed in the sense that he took over a good team. He inherited a young group of players who were very talented. And they had a bit of experience behind them. I've heard him complain that players didn't have experience when he took over. And he's always reverted to older players, which was the wrong thing. He should have backed the younger players. He should have given the guys a chance and said, you are here now. Prove to me that you can do this thing. The likes of Siya Kolisi. For example, I always make the example of Alistair Coetzee and Siya Kolisi. Skalkberger, first game of Super Rugby, gets injured in the first half. There's a young Siya Kolisi that no one really knows. Alistair Coetzee gives him the chance and says, my boy, go give me your best shot. That very same season, Siya Kolisi went on to be a Springbok, purely because the coach had his back. That is what Heineke Meyer needed to do when he became a Springbok coach. Unfortunately, he didn't do that. He chose the safe option of reverting back to older players which had brought him success a couple of years earlier. But the problem is those players were at the back end of their careers and it didn't work well at all.
But one will argue now that if you are a coach of a national team, your work really is not to be developing players, but to get players that are well developed and ready to be competing at that high level of Rugby World Cup.
That is true, but the problem right here again, when Heineke Meyer took over, there were, for example, you look at a player like Lood de Jager. Lood de Jager, he's not there to develop as a Springbok. He's a developed player. He just needs to be given an opportunity. Last week, we saw what Lood de Jager could do. He was one of our best players on the field. What has happened this week? He has been dropped. For a senior player in Victor Matfield, everyone says Victor Matfield is this great line-out specialist. We lost a game last week against Japan because our line-out was so poor. The calls at the line-out were poor. That is the problem. When experienced players make the wrong calls, do they really deserve to be in the team? My answer is simply no.
Now, let's talk about the 8 changes that Heineke Meyer and his technical team made to the team. When you talk about the level of confidence in your players, there you go, you lose your first match too. Aside, really, you were not expecting to lose that game too. And you go and you make 8 changes. What do you make of that? Is it a technical move or is it a move that was made out of panic?
No, for me, those changes had to be made. See, this is another thing. I don't think there were the right changes. Maybe he could have done a couple of things differently, but changes needed to be made in that team. Look, we lost a game that you shouldn't have lost. This is like a championship boxer going into a great fight and being knocked out in the first round. You stand up. You've still got another 11 more rounds to fight on. We still have a tournament to play. It's up to us with our attitude and how we go about our business from now on. Remember, for example, in 2007, England played us in their first game and we beat them.
Yeah.
We met them in the final. In 2011, France took on Tonga. They lost to Tonga. And guess what? They made it to the final in Eden Park. This is not the end of the road for us. We can get out of this. Our attitude and look, we need to back our players. We need to back the talent. Those are not the best players we should have picked, but the 31 players that are in England at the moment are good enough to at least get out of the group stages and give a good fight in the quarterfinals or semifinals.
Do we have depth, though? Do we have a team of players with that character to carry our hopes and dreams as a nation to at least get out of the blocks and make it to the semi-finals, to the final, even hopefully for of this World Cup? Do we have that in our team?
Well, Roma, we do. I'll make an example. Brian Habana has won every trophy, every credible trophy in world rugby. He's a senior player in the team. Jean de Villiers, a great servant of this team. He's been playing for that national team since 2003. Victor Matfield has also cleaned up in terms of trophies. He has seen bad campaigns at World Cups. He has seen successful campaigns. Fourie du Preez has seen successful campaigns. Those are guys that are supposed to lead this team out of this conundrum they're in at the moment. They are senior players. Their voices matter. Their experience. That's why those guys have played more than 100 games for South Africa. They can stand up in a team meeting and say, look, this has happened, but this is how we get out of the situation. They can look a young player in the eye and say, I believe you, you can do this. Now, we need those voices. Do we have those voices? Yes, we do. But we just need to believe in what we are about as a team and as a nation.
Do we have a right balance when it comes to fusing talent and experience? Do we have the right balance there? Because look, if you ask me, experience can take you thus far, because at the end of the day, you're competing with teams that have younger players that are still hungry to achieve more. So what then do you do? Do we have that balance? Have we been able to, get it right?
You see, when this team was announced, for example, the Lut de Jager, Victor Matfield thing, two senior players could have been dropped this week, Jean de Villiers and Victor Matfield. Both of them, you drop them to the bench or do you drop them out of the squads? Now, the impact of that, if you take those senior players and you take them out of the starting lineup, you don't have the leadership on the field. But what do they bring you from the bench? They're not impact players. They're better starting players. The guys who are good, that we're all complaining about, your Lut de Jagers, your Jesse Krills, they will have more of an impact coming off the bench. So in terms of depth, yes, we do have depth. Yes, we do have the excitement, the individual talent to carry us through when those old legs can't do it anymore. We're not expecting a Jean de Villiers and a Victor Matfield to finish the entire game. If they can give us a good, solid hour, I think the guys on the bench, just like New Zealand against Argentina, for example, we're talking about Argentina off air. New Zealand, Argentina, they got to a stage whereby the game was just too tight and too comfortable. Too uncomfortable for the world champions. They brought on the bench. Sonny Boy Williams came from the bench and he made an impact. That's what impact players are about. You don't just put a player there purely because he's not good enough to start. You need to have an understanding of what he's going to bring into the team when he comes on.
Now let's look at our opponents, Samoa. Yes. Very physical team.
Yeah.
They're very physical, and obviously the intensity is going to be on another level. Can we match them pound for pound?
We can. That's what we like. This is where Japan threw us off. We like going into the tackles and wrestling plays because that gives us time to attack the ball and secure possession. We like the physical confrontations at the breakdowns. Now, the problem is Samoa don't have the patience and the tactical acumen to beat us. But physically, we have played Samoa in every World Cup since 1995. And every World Cup, there's always been casualties. This is my biggest concern for me today. It's not the result. It's more the injuries after this game. Those guys will probably break a couple of our not so fit players on this World Cup campaign.
But I hope they won't break the scoreboard, though. I hope the scoreboard will be working in our favor come the last whistle.
We should win comfortably. If we stick to our game plan, we should win comfortably. We're good enough to beat a team like Samoa. But the problem is, what happens going after that? Because after this is still a USA that's going to come, and they're also physical. I don't know.
I appreciate your the energy that you have for the boys. Of course, that was SABC sports journalist Thando Mxoli.